I mean, the other thing you might just talk to Lewis about is the possibility in the educational
Hey Juan, how you doing?
of
Juan.
using some of our MS4 funds
Hi, Inspector. How are you?
to talk about educational of stormwater management, things like that. Yeah.
A lot of kids aren't aware of all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
People?
But I mean, those funds, that's what those funds are for. You know, there's a big component
Yeah, Olga's
in
right
that
here, right in the
MS4
third row.
for that. So,
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
yeah, not a problem.
I don't need this one. No.
What's up, bud? How are you?
Let me put it on now. I got expert glasses.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'm away.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, how are you, Darren?
What?
Karen, where you going for vacation?
Italy.
Oh, good. Oh, you're going there.
Yeah. You're all set. Did you notice?
Did you pack?
I am. Thank you.
Did you pack yet?
No.
Why would you want to work for the vacation?
Listen.
I would go
it's
the
a-
opposite part of the
Yeah,
country.
I know, but
For the
it's a
world.
good opportunity. I'll be like 30 feet away from him at all times.
What is it, 10 day air?
Oh,
Hello?
Huh?
How long?
19th to the 30th.
That's a good time.
Yeah.
good to see you. How are you?
Hey, Juan, how's the house going? It's good.
Looking good.
I just want to rent the room out that overlooks the.
Overlooks the river.
That's a nice spot, man.
I'd like to call the stated session of City Council to order. Please rise for the invocation followed by the pledge of the flag. God of all people and nations, Dios de todo el mundo, we praise you for your creativity you manifest in the gifts of tribes, ethnicities, and cultures across the world. Each one bears your mark of goodness and grace. We especially praise you and thank you for your children with Hispanic heritage, the descendants of Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central, and South America. We find in you the beauty of art, the joy of their song, and their commitment to their community. We hear you in their call for a more just world, one of solidarity and liberation. We know you better because of the witness of their faith. May their faith and ours be bound together by your love and your convivimiento. That spirit of unity, respect, and empathy for which there is no substitute. Keep all those with Hispanic heritage in your care, hold them in your love, and make us fierce advocates and allies for welcome, inclusion, and for the common good. We pray, Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe, the patroness of all Americas. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
You talked to Mayor Spanish today?
Mucho excelente, mayo.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Ettinger,
Here.
and Mr. Pinnabone.
Here.
Mrs. Rose.
Here.
Dr. Ruggles.
Here.
Mrs. Sultana.
Here.
and Mayor Panto.
Here. Approval of the agenda?
Move
Nope.
approved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any additions or deletions? Changes? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone.
Aye.
Mrs. Rose.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
The action on our minutes of our August 28th meeting.
Move to approve.
Moved in
Second.
second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call.
Mr. Pinnabone.
Aye.
Mrs. Rose.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana.
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
At this time, we have a presentation to council. First, we're going to invite Louis and Olga to talk about the Hispanic Heritage Month. But before I do that, I just want to introduce a couple people that are in the audience. Juan Martinez, I see him back there. He's the owner of Don Juan Mexican Grill with one of the offices, one of the restaurants at the bottom of, and he's also a resident of College Hill, the city of Easton. John Acevedo. John, thank you. He opened up his new bakery in the Commodore. The Commodore.
Yeah.
And also was our chairman of the Hispanic Cultural Festival for many years. And he and I got together at his home. So, Andrea Racone, how you doing? You got your daughter with you? Hi. Angie Gomez and Paul Gomez. They are the business owners of Fentes Cleaning and General Construction.
Their uncle, too, is a family business. Pablo is there as well.
Oh, Pablo? There he is. Oh, I see him there. Now I can see him. You're hiding behind Mr. Hopkins.
They're right here in Easton.
Maria Montero. I didn't see Maria. Is she here? I didn't think I saw her. The Fay Foundation alumni student Sophia Fernandez of East Area High School. Hi, Sophia. How are you? Nice to have you back. And Katrina Coronado. How you doing, Katrina? How are you? They've been coming around in here for the last couple months in our summer internship program with the Fay Foundation. So we're really happy to have them. And members of the Lehigh Valley Governor's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs. Olga is the chairperson and Louis is the vice chairperson of the Governor's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs. And who else is here? We had a couple others.
Mayor,
Yes.
I see Eric Torres from Easton here.
Oh, there he is, yeah.
I don't know what he does, but he's here. He's a resident. So.
I'll take that.
Thank you. Olga and Louis.
So thank you, Mayor. I'm standing up out of my city administrator role, and as you had mentioned, I'm the vice chair of the Governor's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs. It's a position in which I was appointed to by Governor Shapiro. So it's an honor to represent our area, specifically Easton, on the advisory board for the governor. Now, Olga, who's
It's an honor for us to have you there.
thank you, and Olga, who's from Bethlehem, as you may know, a former city councilwoman, and obviously a longtime resident of the Valley, has been appointed by the governor to be the executive director of the Governor's Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs.
Promotion.
It's a big deal. There's about 30 members on the board from all over. Two of them are from here, Jose and Memo, Lancaster, and then also Hazleton. There's about 6 or 7 from the Lehigh Valley, including myself. What we have today to commemorate Hispanic Heritage Month, which is September 15th to October 15th, is a proclamation from the governor. So I'm going to turn it over to Olga, who's going to read the proclamation in Spanish, and then I will read it in English.
Gracias, Luis. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here with you. Oops. So, from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, proclamation by the governor. Por cuanto el mes de la herencia hispana es una oportunidad para celebrar las ricas tradiciones culturales y honrar las contribuciones y los logros significativos de nuestras comunidades hispanas y latinoamericanas en medicina, derecho, negocio, tecnología, compromiso cívico, gobierno y cultura. Y por cuanto los latinoamericanos son el grupo minoritario étnico más grande en los Estados Unidos, con 65 millones, y la comunidad minoritaria que crece más rápido en Pensilvania, con 1.1 millones. Y por cuanto los latinoamericanos han servido con distinción en los conflictos militares desde la Guerra de la Revolución y continúan a defender nuestro país hoy en día como miembros de las Fuerzas Armadas. Estos hombres y mujeres valientes nos traen honor y estamos agradecidos por su servicio y sacrificio. Por cuanto la dedicación de los hispanos y latinoamericanos en la comunidad es una parte integral de Pensilvania. Han hecho enormes contribuciones a nuestra sociedad diversa al compartir su cultura y talento. Y por cuanto no importa cómo se vea, de dónde venga, a quién ame, ni a quién rece, usted tiene un lugar en Pensilvania y Pensilvania se enorgullece de honrar la historia y las contribuciones de los hispanos y latinoamericanos en nuestro estado y en toda la nación. Por tanto, yo, Josh Shapiro, gobernador de Pensilvania, proclamo por la presente el 15 de septiembre hasta el 15 de octubre 2024 como el mes de la herencia hispana, en reconocimiento a los hispanos y latinoamericanos pasados y presentes en nuestro estado. Animo a todos los residentes de Pensilvania a celebrar esta importante observancia. Gracias.
Okay, so I'm now going to read the proclamation in English. So this is a proclamation by the governor. Whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is an opportunity to celebrate the rich cultural traditions and honor the significant contributions and achievements of our Hispanic and American Latino communities in medicine, law, business, technology, civic engagement, government, and culture. And whereas American Latinos are the largest ethnic minority group in the country, counting 65 million, and the fastest growing minority community in the Commonwealth, counting 1.1 million. And whereas American Latinos have served with distinction in military conflicts since the Revolutionary War and continue to defend our country today as members of the armed forces. These brave men and women bring us honor, and we are grateful for their service and sacrifice. And whereas Hispanic and American Latinos' dedication to community is an integral part of Pennsylvania, they have made tremendous contributions to our diverse society by sharing their culture and talents. And whereas, no matter what you look like, where you come from, who you love, or who you pray to, you have a place in Pennsylvania, and the Commonwealth is proud to honor the history and contributions of Hispanics and American Latinos in our state and throughout the nation. Therefore, I, Josh Shapiro, Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2024 to be Hispanic Heritage Month. In recognition of Hispanics and American Latinos past and present in our Commonwealth, I encourage all Pennsylvanians to celebrate this important observance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. At this time, I would like to introduce a resolution for Hispanic Heritage Month in Easton, and it reads, whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is a month-long celebration of Hispanic and Latino history and culture, and is important because it provides an opportunity to celebrate the integral part of the Hispanic Latino community in growing and strengthening our democracy. And whereas the Latino presence in America spans centuries, predating Spain's colonization of what is now part of the United States, and they have been an integral part of shaping our nation since the Revolutionary War. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month begins in the middle of September, September 15th, and ends in the middle of October, October 15th, this time frame of this month is significant because many Central American countries celebrate their Independence Days within these dates, beginning on September 15th with Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. By aligning with these independence dates, Hispanic Heritage Month honors the resilience and determination of the Hispanic community. And whereas we will continue to advocate for Hispanics and Latinos and representation matters, Latinos and Latinas continue to shape our nation as business owners, activists, artists, public servants, and more. From serving in the U.S. military to being champions for the fight for civil rights, Latinos and Latinas remain strong leaders and change makers. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Easton wishes to celebrate and recognize the extraordinary contributions Hispanics have made to the American society and culture. Be it further resolved, the City of Easton does hereby proclaim September 15th to October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month. And I'd like to make that as a motion.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion?
Mayor, may I state something?
Sure.
I've been here in the city my whole life, and it's very rare that incidences of our residences make me sick to my stomach. Very rare. But it happened yesterday for a short moment. I posted about this meeting and asked our Hispanic residents to come on out. And we got good feedback. And there was one woman in Easton, a resident of Easton, who was very upset and said she's tired of all of the Hispanics in Easton. And we have no white restaurants anymore. And we have nothing for the whites anymore. And I was sick to my stomach for a minute. But then the residents of Easton took care of it for me. And it was all respectful. Nobody attacked her. Some council members also spoke up with me. And to see the community come together, white people, African American people, Hispanic people, and put this woman, I'm going to say, in her place, just made me feel so much better. So I wanted to take the time as a council member here at the dais to let all the Hispanic people know in Easton that we're grateful for you, we appreciate you, and we thank your contribution to our city.
I agree. Anyone else? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose? Aye. Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana? Aye. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor, one last thing before we begin. There is an event, a Hispanic Heritage Month celebration that's going to be conducted later this week in the West Ward.
Right, yeah, market. It's on North 12th Street from 3 to 7 on September 18th.
That's right.
Next week. Next week.
Next week.
Next week, excuse me.
Okay, at this time in our agenda, we have public comment on any agenda item only. And unlike Wilson Borough, we do allow people who do not live in the city or pay taxes to the city to make a presentation. Oh, we have our active transportation plan. Mr. Hopkins. Scott, how you doing?
So I'm going to introduce Ben Guthrie, who is the traffic engineer who worked on our plan. He's here tonight to present the plan. I just wanted to give a little background before he starts. The active transportation plan was made possible by a grant from the Pennsylvania Downtown Center. And we're going to use this plan to inform a much larger effort called Safe Streets for All, which is a federal grant that we received last year. So the active transportation plan was meant to sort of look at certain impediments, both pedestrian and vehicle impediments from the neighborhoods to the downtown. But it really is focused on active transportation, which is non-vehicular transportation. Safe Streets for All will then take this plan and go really in-depth on safety at probably most of the intersections in the city, and then come up with conceptual plans and fixes for 25 of them. That's in the scope of work. That we're out to bid for proposals right now, and that effort's probably going to take the better part of a year to complete. And I'd like to give a nod to our economic development staff. They did a good job getting both of these grants for us so we could do this work. So, Ben?
Thanks for that introduction, and good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Ben.
My name is Ben Guthrie. I'm an engineer with TPD, and over the last few months, our team's had the pleasure of working on this active transportation plan. So this plan was funded by the WalkWorks program through the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the PA Downtown Center, and I want to thank, we had a very involved and engaged steering committee for this project, and it made a huge difference on the plan and some of the recommendations in this plan. So I'm going to go through some excerpts from the plan tonight, give you a feel for our recommendations, our process to get there. I want to start by introducing, when we say active transportation, we just mean any way of getting around town that involves moving. It can be walking, biking, scooter, using a wheelchair or mobility device. That's anytime you're getting out of the car and walking, biking, moving through town. We also worked closely with Lanta as part of this process, because every bus trip starts by walking or biking to get to the bus stop, and safety is very important for Lanta and their staff as well. So this plan had 3 primary goals. The first goal was to connect neighborhoods to downtown so people can walk and bike from their neighborhood to downtown. The second goal was to improve accessibility within the core downtown. And the third goal was to connect residents to recreational opportunities where they don't have to get in their car to get to where they're going for recreation. So most of the people who live in the neighborhood surrounding downtown, whether it's College Hill or the West Ward or the South Side, live within walking and biking distance of downtown. Not everybody, but a huge percentage of Easton's population lives within a reasonable walking and biking distance of downtown. So a big part of this plan was figuring out what the barriers are that prevent people from doing that safely today. So the first thing we did was an existing conditions analysis focusing on the goals of the plan. So we looked at how traffic moves through the city. You can see here a map showing PennDOT's data for traffic volumes at some key roads throughout the city because fast-moving traffic, heavy traffic is a huge man-made barrier to walking and biking. We also looked at the existing trail network. You can see not just within Easton, but surrounding Easton, there's really excellent walking and biking trail network. I want to especially call attention to the D&L Trail, which is the spine of the local trail system and goes through along the south side of the Lehigh River through the city. One of the things that we looked at as part of this plan is we know the D&L Trail is carrying long-distance walkers, bikers, runners through the city, and those bikers and walkers are all getting to the point where they're reaching the confluence of the Delaware and the Lehigh, and they're looking across the river and they're seeing downtown, and they may be looking for a cup of coffee, a chance to have a meal, a chance to go shopping, a destination along their trip, and we know that there's barriers to them making that connection today. The next important step we did was we looked at data for all bicycle and pedestrian involved crashes in the whole city over the previous 5-year period. So you can see here with different colored dots representing a bicycle involved crash or a pedestrian involved crash. We looked at those crashes and then also looked at this heat map of crashes. So what this shows is where there's a part of the city that a high incidence of bicycle and pedestrian crashes. You can see the color spectrum reflects that. We also specifically called out locations where suspected serious injury crashes happen or fatal injuries, fatal crashes happened. And that really informed our focus areas for this plan. As I said, we worked closely with LANTA. They were engaged in our steering committee. Anybody who's riding the bus starts by walking there, especially with LANTA's new enhanced bus service, the blue line you can see highlighted coming through the center of the city here. They're expecting increased ridership. They're seeing increased ridership, and providing a safe walking route to those bus stops is more critical than ever. So we looked at barriers to connectivity between downtown and each of the 3 surrounding neighborhoods. And you can see from this image here, the very first thing we looked at was topography. Whereas downtown is relatively flat, relatively low elevation, you have the 2 rivers. As soon as you go to any of the surrounding neighborhoods, you're starting by climbing a hill. The other big natural barrier was the Lehigh River. We know that if you live on the south side, you may be able to, as a crow flies, be with less than a mile from downtown, but your actually walk to get to your destination can be significantly longer. And then as a result of those natural features, they also constrict roadway traffic. That means there's very few river crossings, there's very few roads that go down the steep slopes, and so we have concentrated traffic on the few key roads and streets that do lead people to downtown. They're struggling for space and competing with cars for roadway space. So this is a contour map of the city. Again, you can see the flat downtown surrounded by the hills on all sides. You can see the river really dividing the south side and the D&L Trail away from downtown. We also looked at barriers to connectivity within the downtown core. We know that residents are already out walking and biking downtown. We know there's visitors constantly downtown walking and biking. We can look out the window and see that there's more residents that are going to be downtown as development continues, and those people are going to want to walk to recreational opportunities. So the main barrier we looked at within downtown is Larry Holmes Drive. Larry Holmes Drive carries heavy traffic volumes and really serves as a divider between key recreational destinations and also destinations such as McDonald's or Wawa that may be an everyday stop for a lot of people, and the rest of the downtown core. We also looked at a smaller scale at where are there barriers to on a block where you may be wheeling a wheelchair, pushing a stroller, and you're having a great time, and then all of a sudden you hit a broken sidewalk, a missing curb ramp, an obstructed sidewalk. So our team walked all of downtown and took a photo inventory of all the existing sidewalks, crosswalks, curb ramps that's embedded into the report. So what this map here represents are approximately 35 locations identified by our team where we noticed obstructions within the downtown core. And so I didn't include the full photo inventory of this report, but you can see each number on that map corresponds to an intersection that's missing a curb ramp, or a lamppost that's obstructing the sidewalk, or a place where outdoor dining and signs combine to block a pathway, or parking meters block a pathway, where small changes can make a big difference for being able to use a wheelchair or push a stroller downtown. And based on all of these field observations, our review of the crash data, the traffic data, several meetings with our steering committee and discussions, we have several recommendations that we brought back to the city for how to improve conditions for walking and biking. So this is an overview map, but I'm going to talk specifically about a few of the bigger projects that we recommended as part of this plan. The first is looking at Smith Avenue and understanding that for anybody living in the south side that wants to walk downtown, that they start their walking or biking journey by heading towards the 3rd Street Bridge down a steep hill, along with all the regional traffic that's also trying to get from Route 78 to downtown, competing for space there in a congested area. And so what we looked at is understanding how the traffic's flowing and reconfiguring some of that space. You can see in the upper right here, there's 3 historic staircases along the east side of the street that right now kind of lead to a gutter, don't lead to anywhere where you can actually walk. And these 2 images at the bottom, I'm going to zoom in on a little more here. What we found is that despite all the car traffic, there's actually some underutilized road space here. You can see a wide shoulder. You can see here this yellow gore area in the center median here. And we thought, how can we repurpose the space to keep the traffic flowing at a reasonable speed, but discourage speeding and create space for people walking or biking. So here's a rendering our team put together of how that space could be repurposed to create a 10-foot wide trail. We know that a lot of bikes, e-scooters, may still prefer to ride downhill on the road, but it's a lot easier to keep up with traffic when you're going downhill than when you're coming back up the hill. So a path like this would be ideal for people walking and for people trying to make the slow bike back uphill, or for somebody who's riding downhill but with children, maybe an inexperienced rider, may not be comfortable mixing in with the traffic there. Oh yeah, what's not fully captured in this rendering here, we are also recommending the installation of a sidewalk on the opposite side of the street there. It was hard to show from this angle of the picture, but there is room to accommodate both the trail on one side and a standard sidewalk on the other side. So that
coming off the steps?
Coming off the steps, that those 3 historic staircases can be put to good use again. The second project we looked at is College Avenue. Again, we have a very similar situation. We know that for whether you're driving, walking, biking to get from one neighborhood to downtown, that College Avenue is a major connection. So the way that space is used today, right now you've got a nice wide sidewalk with a buffer. You've got wide travel lanes going up and down the street. And you've got on-street parking that's not in very high demand. Maybe seasonal fluctuation may be used by students at certain times of the year. But in this limited transportation corridor, we don't think that student parking is necessarily the best use of this space. And the vision we came up with here is to repurpose that space for a buffered bike lane. Knowing that somebody riding their bike down the hill may be able to keep up with traffic, may be comfortable in traffic, but it's a tougher, slower ride going up the hill. So this could be combined with other measures such as traffic calming down the hill, a speed feedback board telling drivers what the posted speed limit is and how fast they're going, share the road markings for bikes that are coming downhill, and really help to strengthen that bicycle connection between the neighborhood and downtown. Then we turned our attention to the West Ward, which has different challenges than the other 2 neighborhoods, although still a pretty steep hill, especially on Washington Street. So really, if you look at from the neighborhood, if you're trying to find a continuous biking corridor between the neighborhood and downtown, there's only 3 streets that go through. Northampton Street, which is already accommodating a lot of driving, a lot of bus traffic. Washington Street, which has less traffic, but an extremely steep hill approaching downtown. And the street that we have highlighted here, Ferry Street. Ferry Street, there's still some elevation changes to deal with, but it's relatively flat. It's primarily a residential street with low speeds. It's an environment that should be friendly for walking and biking because the same thing that appeals to people walking and biking is what makes a good residential street. We don't want speeding. We don't want cut-through traffic. We just want it to be the residents driving and parking and people feeling safe to walk and bike in their own neighborhood. Knowing that there is great demand for parking in the neighborhood, we wanted to come up with solutions that did not require any loss of parking. So these are all solutions that work with the existing parking configuration. So right now, the street is one way coming towards us. You can see this is the intersection of 10th Street. We have some not very heavy traffic, but pretty fast moving traffic coming down the hill from the right Goes about 3 blocks without a stop sign and a downhill grade, and then does not have a stop sign at this intersection. It's also the widest of the cross streets coming through the West Ward, and has, you can see, a neighborhood destination right there in the far corner. So what we came up with is a new vision that would take the area near the corners where parking is already illegal and extending those out to create some green space, to slow down traffic, to create shorter crossings for pedestrians and make those people more visible as they're crossing the street, whether they're crossing Ferry Street or crossing 10th Street. We also looked at what's currently a very wide travel lane that may encourage speeding and saying, what would it take to introduce two-way traffic for bikes only? So you can see this is a low-speed street where bikes would share the road with cars as a typical residential street coming one way, but have their own dedicated lane going the other way. In combination with, again, other traffic calming measures, you'd have to reduce traffic speeds, reduce cut-through traffic, create more green space at key intersections, especially near the playground at 12th Street, and really reimagine what the street can be to better serve the people who live there. The fourth project we looked at goes back to one of the biggest barriers we identified downtown. So Larry Holmes Drive, probably about 10, 12 years ago now, had a significant traffic calming project that repurposed some of the space, similar to what we're talking elsewhere, to slow down traffic, to create more parking, to narrow the travel lanes, create crosswalks. But outside of that area, it's still a pretty challenging place to cross the street. With such the investment the city's made over the years in the parks and the trails along the east side, and then knowing that there's people repeatedly trying to cross to get to the McDonald's and the Wawa, and then also just looking at the crash data and seeing that this was a crash hotspot for bikes and pedestrians, we looked at what would be the next step in traffic calming to make it safer and easier to walk and bike. So you can see here is the northern stretch of Larry Holmes Drive. You have the 611 ramp. On the east side, again, you have a beautiful playground, a trail, a view of the river. On the west side, there's new apartments being built. There's already a lot of people living and shopping immediately on the west side of the street. But right now, it's a challenging place to cross. So you can see right here, there's essentially 3 lanes wide of traffic, 2 travel lanes in the parking lane. This looks at repurposing that space, actually adding a few more parking spaces by reducing the left turn lane approaching the Free Bridge there, creating bump outs that make pedestrians more visible. We think this is a good opportunity for a raised crosswalk, which is where you have a crosswalk that's essentially built on a speed table so that drivers have to slow down to cross it. And again, where the trail connects there in the middle of the screen, at the intersections at the top and bottom of the screen, create new gateways for people to cross while also adding a handful of more parking spaces along this stretch. Further down the street, we're past the area where there's existing traffic calming is the intersection with Sitgreaves Street. This is a critical location because this is the last, there's a long stretch with no public street access to the waterfront. Sitgreaves is a key connection between Ferry Street and downtown coming down there. But right now it's a very wide street. It opens up for 3 lanes of traffic, approaching 3rd Street here. It can be challenging to cross. So we drew out a concept here of what it would look like to extend those curb lines, to shorten the crossing distance, to add an island in the middle so that you can cross 1 lane of traffic at a time. And again, to kind of calm traffic, create more of a gateway, and make sure if somebody's walking down the street to get to the park, they feel safe crossing with their kid. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to interrupt at any time. I know I'm covering a lot of material pretty quickly here. And the last area in Larry Holmes Drive that we looked at for an example, although there were a few other minor recommendations that I didn't highlight in tonight's speech and tonight's presentation, but are included in the plan, is over by the Wawa and McDonald's. And there's also some senior housing in this area as well, where you've got a kind of unusual, unconventional intersection here that also happens to be at the bottom of a steep hill where cars are flying down and people are trying to cross to get where they're going. So right now you've got 2 lanes coming out, a through lane here, and then a special channelized right turn lane that allows these right turn lanes to also be made quickly. And you can see long crossing distances in each direction. So we looked at what it would take to better define the space that cars are using, to get rid of the slip lane that allows for quick right turns, and to create a crosswalk with a bump out and an island there. So again, people can cross 1 lane at a time and minimize their conflicts with all the traffic turning in every which direction at the intersection. Thinking about longer term, and this is a concept that would need further study, further evaluation to see if it's feasible. But understanding it that really in the middle of these places that we're just talking about is one of the most difficult intersections in the whole city. You've got 3rd Street and Larry Holmes Drive. You're essentially trying to serve neighborhood traffic. You're trying to serve people just cutting through to get to 78. You're serving people coming down the hill from the courthouse. There's people walking and biking. There's new developments in the area, new restaurants, new apartments. People trying to access the DNL trail right on the other side of this bridge. But because of all the car traffic there, what you're left with is an intersection with wide crossings. This crosswalk in the foreground here is almost 100 feet of crossing. You have cars turning in every which direction. You have like 3 different turn phases going on. So you can see these kids, young adults here standing there waiting to cross. I watched them for a few minutes. They were trying to figure out when they were supposed to cross, when was their turn to cross the street. And what we looked at is how could you repurpose this space, slow down traffic while keeping traffic moving, and make room on the bridge for a wide trail connecting the downtown to the south side here. So this is an early concept. Again, this is something that would have to go through a longer engineering process. Anytime you're reconfiguring space right up against the large bridge structure, you have to look at it. But this is a single lane roundabout. The idea of a single lane roundabout is that all traffic passes through the intersection has to slow down to a speed of about 12 to 15 miles per hour. The conflict areas are well defined. You eliminate left turns at the intersection and simplify the crossing so that pedestrians are typically crossing 1 lane at a time with slow-moving traffic. The downside is that there's never a red light, there's never a pedestrian phase that says, now is your turn to cross. But because we've reduced those turning movement conflicts, we've slowed down traffic, we've simplified the intersection for everybody, we think this is a concept that ultimately could better serve all of the people competing for space at this location. So just something for the city to think about for future consideration here. So in addition to the reconfigurations of the street that we talked about tonight and other recommendations in the plan that involve engineering and construction, the plan also includes program and policy recommendations. Those don't make for as nice of a visual, so I'm going to skim through and not read through 10 pages of policy recommendations. But it includes both things that can be done right here at City Hall to change how the city approaches maintenance and safety and engineering investments, coordination with Atlanta. But it also includes building on community events, whether it's bringing back the ice cream rides that used to be run by the former bike shop owner, other community bike rides. We're talking a lot today about making bike connections to the neighborhood safer. So maybe as these streets get improved, maybe community-led bike rides from the neighborhoods to downtown to show off these new connections. But honestly, some of the best opportunities are Easton already has plenty of events where people expect to park farther away and then enjoy walking around town. So you've got a good target audience that's already used to walking downtown. So to build on the festivals and other downtown events with maybe really visible bike parking that gets installed just for the event, or again, neighborhood bike rides down, or encouraging people to walk a little farther to get there, kind of taking on a fresh and positive challenge to a parking challenge. So yeah, we only got to cover a small part of what's in the plan tonight, but I'm happy to take any questions you guys may have.
Questions from council?
Dr. Ruggles.
One thing that I would like to see, just taking into consideration, like for example, going up the proposed bike path up College Avenue. I think that's great, but when you get to the top of College Avenue, you hit Cattell Street, and it's not bike friendly. I mean, we just put bump outs there. It's very hard to just get 2 cars through at the bump outs, and I can't imagine bicycles on there. And I mean, so if we're thinking about that component, what does that component dump onto? You know, and that's my concern. Is, you know, a lot of these we're saying segments here, but how do we connect those segments? How do we ensure that bicycles going further are in a safe environment? You know.
Yeah, it's a great question. And as Dave mentioned, I know the city's looking forward to starting a Safe Streets for All plan in the near future that hopefully can do exactly what you're saying, take these ideas and expand them to look at the bigger picture. One of the reasons we focus on connections like College Avenue is because if we can design a bike lane that helps people get safely to the top and provide a nice transition into the lane there's also opportunities there to turn out to some of the neighborhood streets once you get to the top of the hill And there's a lot of people who I think would feel comfortable riding on the in the neighborhood streets of College Hill that may not feel comfortable on College Avenue itself. So that's why it's an important first step, but you're exactly right. There's room to build on it.
I think you bring up a good point too. A lot of people will take the main roads just as a connector and then often get off on the side streets because they're obviously quieter and there's less traffic. So I think cyclists tend to do that naturally unless they're unfamiliar with the area. But I think a lot of our cyclists that I see going up College Ave currently are just, that's the only way they can get there other than 611 from downtown.
The one thing
But
that
you
I,
still have to get to the side street, that first block in College.
Yeah,
Avenue-
no,
College-
I don't
Tell
disagree.
Street, you have bump outs right there. And
Yeah, I don't disagree with the concern, but I do think like I'm a big fan of all these recommendations, and I've brought up at meetings in the past some of these. We've talked about many of these intersections, and I am a downtown resident and have a lot of concerns about Larry Holmes Drive. So I'm really excited and hope we will adopt some of these
Yes.
recommendations because it's very important. Speeding is an issue throughout the entire city. And we see a lot of people walking and biking. I'd like to see more that helps, with the reliance on parking as well from the other neighborhoods. It's better to connect all those neighborhoods. But I also think we have to consider in the meantime, policing those intersections a little bit more because it's pretty common, and especially on Larry Holmes Drive, to see people standing in the middle of the road waiting for someone to stop to let them
it was in
finish
the one
crossing
picture.
the street.
It was in the one picture.
And this past weekend on Sunday, we had a cyclist hit at Spring Garden and Larry Holmes Street by a truck. And I'm very thankful that he's recovering and he'll be okay. But that, somebody's going to die if we don't take some kind of action. So I appreciate the recommendations in your presentation. Thank you.
I wanted to point out too, the section coming down Washington Street Hill connecting to Larry Holmes Drive. We have put that up in our committee meetings, and I'm glad to see that you target that. My ideal, though, because we do have the new construction area to start over there, is to bring that walkway down closer to crossing over at Wawa's, because a lot of the seniors contact me. My godmother lives there, and she's always complaining she can't get to Wawa's. Yes, my vision, this is Kenny's vision, if we put that down and had a crosswalk across with the flashing lane that let cars know pedestrians are crossing. Something's got to catch their attention.
Yeah, we looked at the potential mid-block crosswalk here. PennDOT makes it very difficult to install mid-block crosswalks on their roads, and we also wanted to minimize impacting the turn lanes into the commercial properties here. So that's how we came up with a compromise design here, but I agree with what you're saying. Ideally, this would be shifted a little bit further down.
Yeah.
You want to be where people are already walking, where people are trying to get to.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you.
This is not the final draft, because I would take it that you may take some input from council.
Absolutely.
And to Dr. Ruggles' point, I think there's because of the bump outs that were created out on top of College Avenue. Actually, today it was either today or yesterday. I saw someone in a wheelchair crossing at the top. I mean, that's very precarious, even with all the lights and everything, because it's not so much going up the hill, it's the folks coming down the hill when they're coming around the bend, which makes it a little, dangerous. But I've noticed that there's some opportunities, like in that area, you could actually, because of that handicap ramp, you can ride your bike. Now that I ride my bike to work on certain days, you can ride right onto that ramp, which makes it a little bit easier, and use the sidewalk if it's permitted. Which I'm not sure, but that's like the least dangerous, I think, path. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that I noticed that, and I want to ask a question. I didn't see any proposed bike lanes on 3rd Street or Northampton Street. Is there a reason why that was omitted? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we did not look specifically at 3rd Street. We did draw up some concepts for separated bike lanes on Northampton Street. We're happy to include those plans as the appendix to the plan for the city to have for future reference. You can fit a separated bike lane. The concept we looked at was putting a bike lane behind the parked cars at the level of a sidewalk. and you could fit a design like that, but the buffer areas were getting very tight, and we ended up with a drawing that had pretty tight travel lanes and then tight parking spots and the minimum width bike lane with a small buffer. And we started to get concerned. We didn't want a situation where somebody's going to open a car door and have somebody be trapped between a rock and a hard place. And then feedback we got from Atlanta too was they had some concerns about refining that design too. So that's why ultimately we turned our attention to Ferry Street as that east-west connection.
Okay. My only suggestion then is where you do have bike lanes in it, and it looks like they're short segments, if there's consideration for ramps going in and out of those areas. Because even going up College Avenue, it becomes a bottleneck. It gets really tight when you make that right-handed turn. That's just a suggestion.
So you're talking about ramps for a pedestrian or for a bicyclist?
It would be both. I mean, I'd leave it up to you. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's feasible, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion. Give people opportunities for transition points.
That's right. Yeah.
I think one of the problems is that these are all great ideas, but I think Dr. Ruggles brings up a problem. But the biggest impediment I see is PennDOT. I mean, we all know that the walkway on Larry Holmes Drive, that 300 block Larry Holmes Drive, belongs in the middle so people can get over to Wawa. I mean, that's where they're going in, whether the pizza shop, the ice cream shop, or Wawa, they're going to go over to that. And I get the same complaints from the Harlan House and Walter House people who crosses. We have a crosswalk at 4th Street, but we don't have a crosswalk on. And where you would put it, that's not where they cross. And they're creatures of habit. They won't cross there. They want to cross down where they're going to go into the store. Same way is true. I mean, I know that we did calm the traffic speed down on Larry Holmes Drive with the median. And I think that's really important. And I think we got PennDOT approval to do Knox Avenue next. So we're happy that PennDOT is becoming a little bit more flexible. But things they allowed in District 1, they're not allowing in District 4.
It does make sense.
Yeah, we're District 5. District 5. You know, I just don't understand why they can allow it in Philadelphia, but they won't allow it in the Lehigh Valley. I mean, we all have the same problems. Bicycling today is more prevalent, thankfully, and especially with the invention of e-bikes. They may be dangerous in their own right, but they have their values. We put people on these things, and we encourage people to use them to cut down on traffic and cut down on parking requirements, and we don't make it easy for them to use it. And I think we need to do this. So I really appreciate you looking at the intersections. I think these are great ideas. I love what you've done on Lehigh Drive at the intersection of 4th Street, because that right turn, continuous right turn, is really bad. But that was meant for PennDOT to keep traffic moving. You know, they want to move cars. They don't care about people.
Yep, exactly. It's about communicating to PennDOT and getting them to listen that there's different priorities once you're already within town than you are when you're getting into town.
Well, I wish we were a state rather than a Commonwealth, because then we could do what we want. Dr. Ruggles.
Can you just go back to your circle? As I recall, you had a major road going from that circle over to the Free Bridge, plus you had a bike lane or a path coming down the Southside Hill to this point. So what do bikes do at this location?
Sure, that's a great question. So what we did, right now there's 6 lanes of traffic moving across that 3rd Street Bridge. So on the far right of the bridge here, on the east side of the bridge, we took the fact that you don't need all those turning lanes anymore under this design and repurposed it for a trail along the east side of the bridge. We chose the east side to use that space because the west side sidewalk is currently a little wider and a little more flexible than the east side. I think the west side's about 10 feet, the east side's about 6 feet to
And all
that.
the walkers use the west side.
Yeah,
I live on the south side. All the walkers walk on the west side.
I believe it. We even saw some bicyclists using the sidewalk on that west side as well. And so to try and improve that east side as well, especially knowing that people coming back and forth from the trail would likely be using that side. There's also the trail along Larry Holmes Drive that picks up just off the east of the screen here. So maybe in the future, that's something where you could make that connection between Trail 1 and Trail 2. That was a little beyond the scope of this plan, and we weren't trying to recommend too much removal of parking as part of the plan, which may be to make that trail connection. But
Mr. Pinnabone and I, Councilman Pinnabone and I were out in Reading yesterday all day for Blueprint Communities training, and it is, as a person who went to Kutztown and would go into Reading and come home, it was just unbelievable. The roundabouts that they put there work really well. When I remember the backup of the stoplights, it used to take probably anywhere from 40 to 45 minutes to get from Reading to Kutztown. Now you're with 20 minutes and you're at Kutztown, and you go to the 22 bypass. I know that roundabouts have a bad name in Easton. I know that, but if they went out to Route 222 10 years ago and today, they would know the value of roundabouts.
It works.
It does work. It has to be in the right location. I think this is a perfect location for a roundabout.
That area really was, my mother-in-law lives off that, and that area was really congested. And when they put their roundabouts in, it just made traffic flow.
Yeah, we did a quick model of this, and we found that there'd be less traffic delay with this than the current signal, and fewer lanes and slower moving traffic. So it could be a potential win-win.
I would just make one suggestion on this, is that there's unused space there in the center of the lane going over the bridge. And I think using that space by widening that path on the east side of the bridge would be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that'd be a better use. And, continuing tweaking this, I also think about what we were talking about over at the Wawa. We have that median island there kind of ending in front of McDonald's. Could that extend further out to near the Wawa too, to create a low-speed crossing, a mid-block crossing there as well? So anything that slows down traffic in this area, I think, could have a few different benefits.
You know what really slows down traffic? Radar.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm all for radar. Right, Scott? We'll keep fighting till on my gravestone is gonna be there. That picture of a radar gun saying he supported radar.
Sad with glasses.
Thank you, everybody. This has been
Thank you.
a fun project for our team to work on. Easton's already a great place for biking and walking, so it was a fun place to work on this project.
Thank you. We just got to make ways to get from our neighborhood downtown and to our trails. So we're working on it, and Dave's doing a great job.
Thank you, Dave.
Any questions for Mr. Hopkins?
So I just wanted to highlight the next step. We'll be coming back to council in 2 weeks to ask council to adopt the active transportation plan after Ben tweaks it with input. And then what you're adopting is not committing to do the improvements. We're committing to the Pennsylvania Downtown Center that we're willing to investigate all of the suggestions and try and implement as many of the safety suggestions as we can. And then we'll use this plan to inform the Safe Streets for All plan, which will expand upon this whole effort, but it'll just be way more in depth and look at more intersections. So thank you. Good job, Ben.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
At this point, we're now at our public comment on agenda items only. Anybody would like, Scott?
Please
How
state
you feeling?
Good evening, doing great.
This is one person who was hit on his bicycle.
No, I,
Bikes everywhere.
I crashed mountain biking 10 years ago, I guess, but doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear
Hi,
that.
everyone. Scott
How you doing,
Slingerland, CAT, Coalition for Appropriate Transportation. 1935 West Broad Street, Bethlehem. I feel like Easton is my spirit home, though, so good to be back. Also joined by Dave Gottlieb, one of our volunteers. We both served on the committee for the Active Transportation Plan. And secondly, happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everybody. I want to voice my support for this plan. As mentioned, bicycling is my joy. And for everybody, really, bicycling falls into two big categories, right? Transportation and recreation. It's fun and it's practical for youth, young people, for adults, for everybody. This plan has been well thought out with creative ideas to improve safety and connectivity for pedestrians and bicyclists. I do also love the roundabout. I urge your input as well as your support for this plan. This plan will rethink the streets, connect more trails, not only trails within Easton, but to neighboring municipalities to broaden the network. And also, hopefully, this plan will urge drivers to drive with care, drivers to yield to pedestrians. On my way here, I saw one of those channelizing signs in Larry Holmes Drive was run over. I was going to bring it in as a demonstration, but we need drivers to step up and drive with care, to slow down, and be kind to bicyclists. And a footnote, beyond your support for this plan, I urge everybody to go out and appreciate the trails. Paul Deary, who passed away 2 weeks ago, his art is on the trails in Lower Hackett Park and Carl Stern Arts Trails. So urge everyone to get out and appreciate the art and everything in Easton, connecting by biking and walking and wheelchairs, ADA accessibility. Thank you.
Great point. Thank you,
Great
Scott.
job, Ben.
See you, Scott. Good evening, everyone. I'm AJ Suero, Board Chair for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I understand that the Hispanic Heritage celebration or commemoration has already taken place, but I did want to offer comments on behalf of the Hispanic Chamber for the City of Easton. Good evening, Mayor Panto, City Council members, city officials, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to represent the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of the Greater Lehigh Valley as its board chair, as the City of Easton honors Hispanic Heritage Month. At the Hispanic Chamber, we've adopted a very simple but meaningful slogan, Somos Familia. We not only seek to give the Latino community a sense of belonging and connection, but we also desire to bring others along to learn more about us and learn more about us in that journey. As part of that, entrepreneurs and small business owners, they've learned the importance of bringing others along on their journey of entrepreneurship. Business owners can't succeed, especially not local business owners, without the support of the local community. And that's what makes Easton such a very special place. Just by walking up and down the streets, the few times that I've had the opportunity to have lunch with City Administrator Campos, and seeing just how tight woven the city is. And it's not just the circle, it's not just the market, it's the shops and it's the people who work in them. It's people like John Aceveda at Agamon Bakery, which I haven't been to yet, but that's on my list. Angie and Paola Gomez, Andrea Rincon, and my good friend Juan Martinez of Don Juan Mexican Grill. They're just part of the growth story of Latinos in Easton over the past 2 decades. They're examples that small business is good business. They're example that local-owned business is good business. And in a city where 24% of the population is Latino and growing, they're also an example that Latino-owned business is good business. And with that, feliz mes de la herencia hispana. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Evening, Amy Bacadoro, 1008 Ferry Street. My comment was to the transportation plan, specifically the Ferry Street example, which I applaud very much. I'm at 10th and Ferry, and I see beyond the transportation of pedestrians and cyclists, but also the traffic calming measures that I truly see that these will help on that street, which is quite an issue. And I'm assuming those red dots on the plan were significant for the bump outs like you shared. Thank you. And my only other thought would be thinking about lighting, pedestrian level lighting on Ferry Street if we are pushing it for it to be more cyclist and pedestrian friendly and that walkway. But thank you, that was an excellent place for that. Thanks.
That's a good point, Amy. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address City Council agenda items? Art?
My name's Artie Ravitz, 144 Church Street, Easton, and I would like to ask council to publish a list of the new Hispanic businesses so we can try them out. I'd love to get more details and stuff, and instead of waiting until I, by some luck, get an advertisement, I'd love if the council could get some publication about them, and so I could at least have it in my hand and check out the businesses at some future time. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. is no consent agenda tonight. There's nothing to report from council. No reports to receive, so reports from the committees. We'll move right into Vice Mayor Brown, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two things on the agenda this evening, Bill 21, which is amending 2024 Eastern Revolving Capital Fund, and Bill 22. That's for 2024 Eastern General Fund, and that is all I have for this evening.
Councilman Pinnabone, Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things. From the Department of Community and Economic Development, currently they're working with Lehigh University Small Business Development Center to develop business education programming in the city of Easton. We are also in final discussions regarding office space in the city for designated staff to provide direct support to our local businesses. This week, a grant management portal that will allow for grant writing and related technical support from our department to all city departments. It will eventually be rolled out to nonprofit partners as well. The RDA has begun internal work on the 824 Ferry Street, the old church. It will include 4 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom units, affordable rental housing, including 1 ADA accessible unit. The department also applied for 2 local share assessment grants to support the southeast quadrant in downtown for a total of $181,000. And regarding the presentation on the active transportation plan that we heard here tonight, this was the end product of a $35,000 grant that the department received from the PDC and the PA Department of Health. Last week, I was invited to take a walking tour of the marquee. It's coming along great. The recreation area, the rooftop recreation area is just amazing. So I know everybody will be taking a tour soon as it's completed. I think they're going to start renting out next April is their plan of 25. Yesterday, as the mayor mentioned earlier, myself, the mayor, and some people from our cohort attended Reading Community College for a training on different ways to engage Southside and how we're going to bring the projects and the grants to Southside as we were awarded the designation of the Blueprint Communities. It was a good event. You might have saw in the paper today, and you might remember that I've been pushing Easton Area School District to open up Cottingham Stadium 1 day a week for the residents to walk, as we have a lack of green space in the West Ward. About a couple months ago, Jared Mast and Councilwoman Crystal Rose attended with me for one final push. That failed. They denied us. But they have been working, and they made it known yesterday that they're considering putting a trail in the back of a walking trail in the back of Paxinosa in the big field back there. So as you read in my comments in the paper today, I was excited to see that they are looking for ways to address the need for green space for our West Ward residents. So that was good. I've been meeting recently with Valley Health Partners, who are coming to Southside, as well as Star Wellness, who are downtown. And as I mentioned to the mayor last week, on October 14th, bringing their buses to Easton. We're going to be in the West Ward. I'll give you locations at a later date. We're going to be in the West Ward and in Southside. They're bringing medical buses as well as dental buses. Whether you have great insurance or you have no insurance, whether you're, no matter what your status is, we want to get you medical care. We have OBGYNs coming, dentals coming, vision, financial services. So we're going to launch that in the West Ward and in Southside on October 14th, which is a Monday. And that's something that I hope will get a lot of support from the residents, as well as something we will do more often. Mayor, that's all I have. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Also, Department of Economic and Community Development is applying for a business improvement micro grant and loan program. That is all.
Thank you. Planning and Codes Committee, Councilmember Rose.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week I attended the Easton Planning Commission meeting. 2 items were reviewed at this meeting. The land development request for a planetarium at the Nurture Nature Center on Northampton Street was approved, really exciting project, already an asset to the community, and I think the planetarium will be a great addition to the city. The second request was the warehouse project on 15th Street and Wood Avenue. It was presented and the decision was tabled. The Planning Commission wished to see what Wilson Borough's decision would be. That meeting in Wilson Borough was this past Monday. The warehouse is primarily located in Wilson Borough with a smaller percentage of the property located in the city of Easton. I was sad to hear that Wilson Borough approved the project at their meeting on Monday. Unfortunately, the warehouse will affect the city of Easton and Palmer Township as well. I really would have liked to see them come to the table with the surrounding municipalities. This request will go back to the Easton Planning Board and will not be presented to City Council because there has been, I've been receiving a lot of questions from residents about that. I do want to thank all the residents who attended the meeting to speak out about their concerns about this project, and a big thank you to the council people who attended last week, Councilman Pintaboone, Councilman Brown, and Councilwoman Sultana for joining the meeting. Collectively, we all spoke out against the project, citing concerns of traffic, safety, environmental, and pollution concerns. Keep an eye out for anyone who's interested. The next planning meeting or one of the upcoming planning meetings, the agenda will likely include that request again. At last night's council committee meeting, I presented a residential mailed newsletter proposal so that we can better communicate to the 11,586 current households in the city. I'd like to thank my fellow council members for their time last night and their consideration on this important communication initiative. I hope to see the first issue out next year if approved and goes forward. And Mr. Ravitz, this newsletter could possibly include new businesses that come into the city as well. So just wanted to note that. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Councilman Rose. Next person is, Councilman Dr. Ruggles.
I have no report tonight.
Oh, that's great. Public safety. And Public Works, Councilman Eddinger.
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Works Committee met last night. Kate Simmons from Nature Nurture gave us an update on the climate action plan for the city of Easton. That's all I have.
It was a very good report, too. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. Administration Committee, Councilmember Sultana.
Mr. Campos and I had a meeting, but I don't have anything official to present. Mr. Campos may have an update on the 2024 budget, or not, 2025 budget. I can't believe it's already 2025. But I'm excited to give you an update on our 2 years of hard work for Home Easton, where I serve as a vice president, along with Councilman Roger Rugger, former Councilman David O'Connell, Michael Brett, and other great members of our community. We finally hired a landlord-tenant ambassador who will provide an annual training program that serves municipalities, multiple cities of purposes relevant to managing property in the city of Easton. Aside from pertinent materials about meetings, local, state, and federal legal requirements, this program will be a resource to property owners at all levels of experience. It includes helpful tips and templates to stay organized throughout the process, as well as ethics trainings and opportunities to collaborate with other property owners in the area. There will be an effort to tie having landlord training to having a rental license. The ambassador builds relationship will build relationship with tenants, landlords, and the city. And tenants will be able to participate in the community and will be assisted in many remediations. It is a proactive rather than reactive approach, which would build strong landlord-tenant relationship to better avoid evictions and decrease turnover and fight against all forms of discrimination. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Report of the mayor. Just want to mention, make sure you remember special meeting on Tuesday, October 1st at 6 o'clock. I'll present the budget to City Council, and then you'll have till December 15th to approve it or make changes and modifications and adjustments. I also want to thank all the council members who showed up at Scott Ransom Press Box ceremony. I want to thank the Recreation Department, Mr. Hopkins, for doing a great job. I thought it was very well done. It was nice to see Scott so emotional. I want to talk about the September 25th meeting. I will not be here, but neither will the city clerk. She'll be on vacation. but you have Julie Clemente sitting
Julie
in?
will be covering.
Okay. And then I want to talk about the warehouse issue as well. I was at the planning commission last week, and I'm kind of concerned. I'm very appreciative of the developer's willingness to extend the Carl Turner Arch Trail and pay for the pedestrian bridge. I think that's admirable. But I am very concerned about it being a warehouse that we still don't know the final use. And the final use, there's a lot to be had. If it's a fulfillment center, the majority of the traffic is those tall cube vans that Amazon is using. But if it's a warehouse, a typical warehouse use and user, because it's being built as spec, it's all tractor trailers. So there's a major problem here that, so the council or in Wilson Borough basically said, well, it doesn't matter what the difference. Well, it does matter. It matters to us because PennDOT still has not issued an HOP. They have still not approved the traffic plan. They approved the traffic impact plan, which basically says how much traffic they're going to create. Well, that's one thing. But the final thing is, what are you going to do about the traffic that you created? If you're coming east, at the Planning Commission meeting here in Easton, they said they would tell the people to get off at 25th Street and come down Wood Avenue. Well, I don't believe that anyway, because I listen to my GPS. If the GPS tells me to turn into the lake, I turn into the lake. I drown. I mean, that's what they do. So the GPS is going to tell you to go to 13th Street. Well, getting off 13th Street, you cannot make a left. You cannot make a left. So the minimum that I think PennDOT should do is put a traffic signal there and another area for the tractor trailers or the cube vans to make a left into the development. They have not received PennDOT approval yet. PennDOT has been very, very critical of a truck stop when the city opposed a truck stop back in Williams Township at the edge of South Side, where South Side turns into Williams Township. For God only knows the reason why, but Williams Township could care less about what goes down there because they didn't get none of the impacts. It's very similar to this. But PennDOT said you have to do this, this, and this in order to get it, and they had to widen the road, they had to put in left turning lanes, and they wanted the city to make Line Street one way. We said no, we're not making Line Street one way, and that project has stalled. That project would have been horrible for the South Side. No problem with Williams Township, who doesn't even have a police department, by the way. So only the state police could service it and protect us. We all know that truck stops can be very gritty places. Not only do they look bad, this was going to be a truck stop that had showers for the drivers and everything. I mean, this was a real truck stop. This wasn't a Wawa. And anyway, the discussion with the developers at the planning commission meeting in Easton, I could not get to the one in Wilson, and it wasn't a planning commission meeting, it was a Wilson council meeting. Those types of questions didn't come up, and or those types of that input from the developer didn't come up, and I just think I understand from Councilman Pinnabone, they were upset because the city's providing. We don't come and object to your developments. Well, that development right there, I guarantee you, is not putting any more impact on the streets of Wilson Borough.
Mayor, when I asked the mayor of Wilson what projects have we done that impacted them, they brought up the Commodore by the Free Bridge.
River.
They brought up the Marquee downtown, and they seem to have a problem with Bacon Fest. They said we bring too many people into the city for Bacon Fest. So that was their reasoning why I guess they wouldn't let us speak or hear from us.
Well, I don't want to, I explained this last night and I'm going to explain it again because I really believe what Dr. Rogel says. When I was here in the 1980s, we found an ordinance that was annexing, the Hackett family gave the Hackett Park to the city of Easton. So right now you leave the city of Easton at 13th Street and go up and then get back into the city of Easton at Hackett Avenue. In the early 1900s, in the early 20th century, Easton City Council had, all cities in Pennsylvania had annexation rights. And we annexed from 13th Street to Hackett Avenue. Now, Mr. Scheer, and I don't disagree with him, we waited. You can't go back and say 100 years later that that's our land. that we annexed it. And we're stuck. I don't know why they did that. But when I was here in the 80s, the property taxes went to Wilson Borough and the water and sewer revenue came to the city of Easton. I don't know why, but I'm sure that fathers like me, I would like to just get along with my neighbors. And Wilson's a very important neighbor to us. We rely on them for a number of services, including mostly our fire department. But they worked out that okay, fine, you know what? We annexed it, but we're going to annex it, but let's work it out and make it beneficial for both groups. And we got it. I don't know why we didn't fulfill the annexation. I mean, in 1900, Easton, oh, you'll appreciate this. In 1900, the Easton was the largest of the three cities, population-wise. We're now the smallest. We just went over 30,000. We have 30,140 people. But Allentown merged and annexed 7 municipalities. Bethlehem annexed and merged with 5, and we did 1, south side. The borough of Southeaston merged with Easton, and we annexed Southeaston. I don't know why we didn't annex Wilson and West Easton and Glendon. Glendon was founded in 1867. And I'm like, why did you wait 112 years and you didn't take that land? So it was built, it was a company town by Glendon Iron Works. So I just think that I really want to follow this. I think the city, we put in standing last year. Joel and I went to a meeting to put standing, and our solicitor says we have standing because it's at our border. And I just look at people coming down 22, getting off at 13th Street, not being able to make a left, going into the westward, turning around, and coming back to go into Wood Avenue. In a tractor trailer. And those leaving will come across the bridge, across 13th Street, get to where they have to make a left to get on 22 East. And that's going to back up traffic. So it's a poorly designed intersection now. And about, I don't know, Dave, what is it, 10 years ago, we did the Double Diamond, and it was like $50 million to do the improvements that we needed out at that intersection, and PennDOT wasn't going to do it. And the Double Diamond would help. But why they're not putting the cost, PennDOT is not putting any cost on the developer to improve the traffic flow for left-hand turn lanes, I don't know. But
and the other thing is the backup out onto 22 is really bad. And if you start adding tractor trailers coming in or any additional traffic, it's just going to get worse.
Well, Councilman, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
It depends on what meeting you listen to. Because at the Easton Planning Commission, they said no traffic would come to 13th. All the tractor trailers are going to get off on 25th Street. I don't know how they guarantee that, but that's what they said. In Wilson the other day, they said all the tractor trailers are coming to 13th Street. So it depends on what meeting you listen to determine where the trucks are going.
Pennsylvania, I will say this, and Wilson Borough officials might get mad at me, but that's okay. They're already mad at me because we moved the fireworks up to Hackett's Park. Pennsylvania has over 2,500 municipalities, some as small as Glendon with 400 residents, some with $8,600 residents like Wilson Borough. I have a hard time, Lewis and I have a hard time balancing a budget with 30,000. And it's just, there's a dichotomy that exists between being big, too big, and too small. And that dichotomy is what is the right size for a community that can be able to give their people, their residents, all the services they want at a rate that allows them to live comfortably. And that probably is somewhere around 85,000 population, like the size of Bethlehem. Still have enough money to do the things they need to do, but yet not big enough like in Allentown with 120,000 people that it's skewed out of bounds. So that is the warehouse and annexation. But Dr. Ruggles, when he was an engineering professor at Lafayette, he had a tech clinic that studied it, and they found the same ordinance that I found back in the 80s. And we did annex that property. But the annexation of Wilson, we're too late. I don't know why our city fathers, I'm sure they had their reasons, and I'm sure they were good reasons, but I don't know why. The last thing I'd like to recommend or mention is an award that one of our council members got. City and State Magazine is a very well-known magazine that most elected officials will read, and officials, local officials, will read cover to cover. I read it. I mean, I get it, and it's City and State Magazine is very, very good. They give out an award, several awards each year, and one award is the top 40 people in Pennsylvania in elected officials. And Mr. Pinnabone, Councilman Pinnabone, received that award, and I want to congratulate you officially. It's a great honor. I mean, to be recognized as the, even though you're 60 years old.
One.
But when is the award ceremony? It's in Philly, I know.
It's the DoubleTree, October 1st.
October 1st. Okay.
Oh, it's same day as the budget.
The DoubleTree. Oh yeah, it's the same day as the budget address.
I was going to talk to you about that. See if you can move the budget.
You can talk in it all you want, but it's not on.
I was going to ask you to move the budget hearing to the 2nd.
I can't. It's in the charter.
You know I hate the charter.
Well, until it's changed, I have to give it. Hey, I don't like giving it on October 1st either. I mean, we're putting together a budget. We still don't have some of the numbers, like what our health care costs are and things like that. Some of the insurances that we have. All right, moving on. I'm done. There's nothing else on my correspondence. There's no correspondence. So go to city solicitor.
Thank you. By the way, the warehouse issue for Planning Commission was my understanding was it was continued to a date certain, being the November
6th.
meeting, the first meeting in November. We had an executive session prior to the opening of the council meeting, and we hit the trifecta in the sense that we covered personnel, we covered real estate, and we covered litigation. And that's it for my report.
Thank you, Mr. Campos.
Mayor, two items. The first is, per the charter, we delivered a budget to the mayor, and so that part of the process is completed. Now the mayor will, and with the team, complete the budget for then submission to City Council. The other thing that I do want to mention is, with that, at the next committee meeting, we are going to have a workshop to go over the budget mechanics, not the budget, but the budget mechanics, the structure, expenses and revenues, etc. Also, Finance will be submitting year-to-date budget numbers to Council. We'll go over then what you can expect through the budget review process, additional updates as well. So we'll be planning that, Mayor, while you're not here. But it's a workshop, and we're going to go over through that details, including all the funds, etc. And then the last thing that I do want to mention is that with regards to the current budget, because you will get the year-to-date numbers at the next meeting, we are approaching our budget for fire overtime. So expect a request for a budget amendment at the next City Council meeting. We will hit our budgeted amount for 2024 for the fire department's overtime. The charter requires for the city administrator and the finance department to inform council whenever we see an issue. There's an issue there. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no correspondence, so we'll move right on to unfinished business, Madam Clerk.
Bill number 21, an ordinance amending the 2024 City of Easton revolving capital fund budget.
Move to approve.
Moved in second. Discussion. Dr. Ruggles.
I would really like to get an accounting of our fund balance. We're voting to take money out of the fund balance, and I have absolutely no idea how much is there. And I don't know how much we've taken out of it over time. It's just like there's this infinity pot out there that we can just go grab money out of. And I know it's not, but I mean, presenting it like this kind of makes that. And I mean, I think if we see the fund balances getting low, we can ask questions is this an important thing to do? You know, but if we don't know what the fund balance is, I have no way of questioning if we should do this or not. So I would like to see that. What is the fund balance, and what have we taken out of that fund balance over the last whatever time?
I think that's a fair request, and I think in the past we may have even done that. I don't know. To be honest, I'm not quite sure why we left that off on this one.
Because we talked about it at the last meeting.
Yeah, we did.
We usually, when we move that kind of, we usually move it because of insurances or something like that, up or down.
Okay, and I spent a lot of time in my budget message on the reserve fund and how because of some other things we're doing in the budget. Okay, roll call.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone? Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Bill number 22, an ordinance amending the 2024 City of Easton General Fund budget.
So move.
Moved in second discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye. Okay, move on to new business. Bill number 23.
Bill number 23, amending Chapter 560 of the Vehicle and Traffic. Wasn't that yours?
Yeah, but it doesn't have anything in here what it is.
Oh, it's for the
It's for the
tractor trailer.
tractors?
Yeah.
We're having a real problem in the neighborhoods with tractor trailers parking overnight on city streets. So we're going to raise the fee, overnight fee, the parking violation. For tractors only, without a trailer, it would be $250. It's currently $25. So the tractor trailer drivers are finding it more convenient and more economical to pay the $25 than to find themselves a $150 parking space somewhere off-site. If it's just a trailer, it's $250, and if it's a tractor trailer, it's a $500 fine. So we're going to increase the tractor trailer rates, and that's what this bill does. Roll call.
Introduction.
Yeah,
Oh, it's-
yeah.
That's right. Okay. Public comment on any item that's affecting Mr. Rabbits. You gotta speak in the microphone, sorry. No. Well, I'll let Mr. Shearer answer that question. The question for the people out in the live stream view was Mr. Rabbits from Church Street asked if the Planning Commission doesn't approve, is it not approved? We are very much, I'll let Mr. Shearer answer.
The Planning Commission has a land development plan for whatever portion of it is, and there's criteria that the Planning Commission looks at. It's not a judgment as of like a special exception or a variance where you're giving permission for something. The use itself, a warehouse, is permitted in the area. So it's a matter of dealing with the engineering details and the requirements within our own Saldos subdivision land development ordinance, and if they are met, then there's sufficient information, then the Planning Commission, in theory, would have no reason to disapprove it. The Planning Commission itself very quickly was able to identify a number of concerns, particularly raised by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission in their review letter, and to me, one of the most obvious missing items, particularly considering the discussion about traffic, was we didn't see what PennDOT did. So those would be legitimate without that piece of the puzzle. I think there's a reasonable basis for the commission to consider that we don't have the details. Now, it was continued for 2 months because I think the developer is fairly confident that And they promise they will go through all the points in the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission members, memo, some of which are really advisory. They're really not, I don't think they would necessarily be the basis to deny it. It's just what LVPC is pointing out what is better planning. There are other things that are important to know, including what is the actual traffic flow, because there was some inconsistencies there. But the bottom line is the Planning Commission, after they hear all of that, will have to vote to approve or disapprove. If they disapprove, the developer would have a right to appeal, and the place for appeal is City Council, and that's when you'd actually have a public hearing, and you'd have a record made, and you can't just do it because we don't like it. It really has to be on a very technical basis of what is missing in the plan. And one of the reasons we want the Wilson Borough's decision is to see what kind of conditions they may have had in their approval, which I don't know if they have any conditions. We know there's at least from the newspaper account, there were waivers of certain things within Wilson Borough, which probably would not impact us.
Madam Clerk, tomorrow if you could fill out a right-to-know form for Wilson Borough to get that, because I think that's an important document. I don't think they'll just hand it over to us.
Mayor, the two things they mentioned in Wilson this week was that, I don't want to call it a bridge down closer towards Hackett Avenue, or it's on Hackett.
The one that was, it's over Hackett's.
That PennDOT rated as
It's
fair.
over tributary.
Yeah, they're supposedly going to strengthen that, but they didn't say what that means. And they're going to widen the intersection of Wood Avenue and Hackett's. That was what they mentioned, because their plan in their head, Councilman Ruggles, is that all the tractor trailers are going to get off on 25th Street, even though the GPS tells them it's faster to go to 13th. They're going to get off on 25th, take Wood Avenue down, and then have to make that hard left onto Hackett's Avenue. So those are the two things they mentioned. I don't either.
Anything else? Yes.
Evening again, Amy Bacadoro, 1008 Ferry. I don't mean to beat a dead horse with the warehouse, but as a citizen, I feel compelled to make some comments. I attended the Planning Commission meeting a couple weeks ago, and then I also attended Wilson Borough Council meeting this past Monday. I wanted to thank Councilman Pinnabone and also Palmer Township Supervisor Mike Brett for reaching out to Wilson Borough to discuss further. I also wanted to thank Frank Graziano, who's on the Planning Commission. He was also in attendance Monday night. And like I said, I went to the Planning Commission meeting here in Easton, and I would like to thank Dr. Green for allowing citizens to speak, even though they moved to table this for a future meeting, but that was much appreciated. I was at Monday night's meeting with several Easton residents, along with us from West Ward neighbors. It was a very concerning meeting. Wilson had a lot to say about Easton development, as Mr. Pinnabone has stated, although none of which is partial to Wilson Land Development. Also to note, they made significant changes to the traffic plan that was presented at our Planning Commission meeting. They actually had a traffic gentleman there to speak about things. Again, as we've stated, it's pushing traffic to 13th Street as opposed to the 25th Street exit off of Route 22. There was no opportunity for Easton residents to speak, even though we all have a significant interest in this project. Even Wilson residents that voiced any kind of concern, including one of their own borough council members, they were hushed and basically dismissed. I know that's not under Easton's purview, but again, I'm saying it for the record. I think what was absolutely most concerning was the act of their borough solicitor. I felt he was completely out of line and overstepped his role significantly on that borough council. I am not a lawyer, but that is the way I felt, and I plan to pursue a conversation with our state representative on if this can be handled in another manner, because it was completely out of line. I appreciate very much City Council's support on this and hope that you can continue to extend an olive branch to Wilson Borough to see if there is a better use for this site. Palmer Township, it sounds like, is very willing to make those conversations as well, so we can come together at this 3 points. And I'd also like to encourage all my West Ward neighbors to stay informed and also please, please, please attend meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Rincon. I have a business here in downtown Easton that opened about a year ago called Casa 401 in Queso Arcasa. And I wanted to thank City Official Luis Campos, who invited me here today as part of the Heritage Month celebration. It's kind of an overall idea. My business, which I opened a year ago, like I said, the shop offers about 30 different designers from Colombia who I work directly with. And my aim is trying to bring in pieces, clothing, accessories, and so on that were made with sustainability in mind, conscious shopping, pieces that were made thinking of the environment and the social impact of their brands. And along with that is queso, which is a Swiss and French-inspired dish, which is a melting cheese over baguettes and potatoes, which also has a fusion with Latin American flair and ingredients. And I would also like to take this opportunity because I've been assisting Joe from the Quadrant with Garlic Fest in the past 2 years, organizing the Latin Quarter, which this year will be on North 3rd Street. Correct. And I'd like to invite them all because I was in charge this year and last year also, but this year we were putting together a really nice program for that stage, both for Saturday and Sunday, bringing a lot of local, but also people from New York and surrounding areas to celebrate Latin American culture, music.
And a major recording star.
Was that?
And a major recording
I know, which I'm not allowed to say yet who it is.
Either.
But it's going to be big. It's going to be on Saturday, the headliner. So just really excited to be part of that team of the Garlic Fest, and I hope to see you all there on October 5th and 6th. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melody Rogers, 710 West Berwick Street, Easton. Tractor trailer problem over on South Side. What we see is right now, I went up to Valley and Lincoln Street. So I think it's a father and a son maybe. So they take up the whole corner. So when I was at the stop sign here, facing this way, he had 3 chairs, 3 coolers, 2 garbage cans, and he did the whole corner going on Lincoln Street. Now, that's one. The other one just had it blocked off for the cab, but the other one was doing the whole tractor trailer. You can't even see around the corner when the cars are coming out. My other place is on Berwick Street, where Packer is. Right there, the cars park right at the corner, and you cannot see out. You have to pull out in the middle of Berwick Street in order to see where Packer is, right, Frankie? You know that where that business comes? It's hard to see every time. It's very, very dangerous there as it is. So we need to get, I don't know if they need to paint a yellow line there, but this guy has a business. He has 3 or 4 trucks that are always right there.
Well, the next,
Berwick and Packer. Yeah, right on the corner.
Ordinance amendment we're going to do that I'm going to introduce will be to eliminate tractor trailers on parking on city streets anytime. Right now, so they can park there till 9 o'clock at night. That's the way our ordinance reads. And we want to just eliminate it.
But these guys will stay overnight. They're
Oh, yeah,
overnight. They're a mess. But what?
Sorry, Mel. There's tractor trailers on the corner of
No.
Berwick and
These
Packer?
are just work trucks that are right there at the corner. When you're coming up Berwick Street
Yeah.
and you're at Packer, right there at the corner, you cannot see around the corner. There's these work trucks. There's like 3 or 4 of them right there at all times. No matter what time you look, they're there. And it's hard to see. You have to pull out in the middle of the road, and that's dangerous as it is. So, we just need to get it painted yellow line or whatever. Maybe that might help. I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to address city council? Anyone from city council want to make any comments?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn? Second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
And Mr. Pinnabell?
Aye.
No,